Hello, Miguel Trujillo again. It's time for another production of a video where, again, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I haven't rehearsed. There is no script. This is completely off-the-cuff type speaking, so I hope your expectations aren't that high. I wouldn't want to dash them. Okay, so what's been on my mind lately? I got a new printer. I got a new HP printer, and it's pretty amazing. It's the HP NV4500, and it has ePrint capability, and that means that it has the ability to that I can print from my tablet or my laptop computer through my Wi-Fi system. And because my printer is connected to Wi-Fi, I can, the printout will appear magically at my printer. And in fact, I can print over my cellular network, so to speak. That means I can be in New Mexico when my printer is here in California. And I could print something from my cell phone, say a photograph that I take on my cell phone. So it's really amazing. In fact, it's beyond amazing that this technology exists. Now, this is the kind of technology that 5-10 years ago I wanted in my printer, but I had a heck of a time making it happen. There were a lot of tweaks and a lot of software uploads or whatever, and I just never really got it to happen. So, up until now, I've been printing with just through my USB cable, and so the way technology has advanced right now, it's so remarkable. I'm really blown away by the capability. It's really fantastic. The idea that I could take a picture in the mountains, say, and if I have cellular reception, print that picture so that it shows up when I return home printed is amazing to me. It's the miracle of technology, and I can't believe I live in such a wonderful time when I've got all this capability. It's there to be tapped. And I was driving on the road in town today, and I was thinking to myself how in 5 years the first autonomous car will probably be sold on the market, hopefully within 5 years. And within a short time after that, I think, 5, 10, 15 years, I see this amazing transition of transportation over from human-driven to computer-driven. And that autonomous car is going to be amazing. I can't wait for it to happen. The most dangerous thing that I do in my day is I drive. I drive from home to work, and then I drive from work to home. That drive, I do it so often, it may not be as risky as other types of driving, like going to the grocery store or going on travel or going on vacation. But I would really like to have that risk minimized. The risk of driving, all it takes is one accident, and you might be dead. You might be a quadriplegic. You might suffer injuries to your femur or to your knee or to your head. Untold injuries from a crash may occur, and boy, I really can't wait till I sort of delegate that responsibility to a computer, with, of course, all the appropriate safeguards, so that I don't crash into anyone and nobody crashes into me. I can see a time when every car or every vehicle on the road is talking to one another using like Wi-Fi technology, and so every car knows where every other car is, and I can imagine both cars applying the brakes automatically, and if there's sort of an unintended accident waiting to happen. Man, it's just going to be phenomenal. And oh yeah, and I definitely see a time when human beings driving cars will be outlawed. You know, someone is going to write a law. It's going to say human drivers are outlawed, and of course it'll be totally appropriate because human drivers, you know, for all their benefits in terms of flexibility, they have serious drawbacks. You know, we get distracted. In fact, we could be driving, paying attention to the road, and just in our mind's eye be visualizing, say, a vacation in Hawaii, and even with our eyes on the road, still crash into someone who's right in front of us. It's just the human brain. And, you know, we've got so many distractions nowadays with MP3 players and radio and television and children and spouses, and it just work stress, you know, work and stress. So, and you know what? A lot of humans get into car accidents out of maybe they weren't properly instructed or educated or trained to drive. Sometimes there are unique situations on the road, and you have to be creative to figure out how to handle them. You know, and then of course there are the human emotions. I was coming out of Walmart this afternoon after shopping there, and I was just waiting at the light, and so I had a red, whereas the traffic that was sort of orthogonal to me, they had the green, and I guess it was turning from green to yellow on its way to red, and there was this big old truck. I think it was like a Ford Bronco or something. And someone slammed on the gas, and I could hear their engine just rumble and vibrate as they, you know, hauled past the intersection. And immediately I saw that person braking because just a block beyond, they wanted to make a left-hand turn. So this crazy strategy where this guy accelerated as fast as he could, his engine, and then slammed on the brake to make the turn, just so he could make the light. You know, that kind of driving is, well, it's common. You know, these are human beings. You know, they're impatient. They've got things to do, places to go, people to see. And, you know, they drive like that. And I can't wait, like I said, for autonomous vehicles to be everywhere. And I could see, you know, a big reason that that people have these huge vehicles like SUVs and giant vans and even minivans and all the safeguards. Imagine all the money that's put into safeguards like airbags and side curtain airbags and vehicle stability control, anti-lock brakes, you know, all that technology. You know, once computers come online and start driving our vehicles, we won't need that stuff because nobody will crash. I mean, we might still have that stuff anyway in very well-equipped cars, but, you know, you could probably make a car out of styrofoam and polyethylene, and it would be just as safe as any car on the road today and safer. In fact, not only could you make it out of very light materials like plastics. I mean, I can just imagine 3D printing of vehicles. You know, really, the autonomous nature of the car comes from the computer system. So you throw a computer navigation system in there and a motor, and it may have, you know, everything else might be extremely low quality, but so long as you got the engine and the brakes and the navigational computer, you could go anywhere safely, and it's just going to be amazing. You know, so long as it's on the road, of course. And so, I mean, I can imagine cars shrinking in size. And a lot of people buy big cars just so that, you know, if they ever get into an accident, they won't die. So I can imagine cars shrinking. You know, everyone thinks about the Ford Festiva as being a small car. Well, I can imagine in 5, 10, 15 years, a small car might be half the size of a Ford Festiva. You know, imagine the efficiencies we'll get out of transportation then. You know, cars these days, like a 1-ton truck, you know, like even a minivan weighs a good 2 tons, about 4,000 pounds. It's a crazy amount of metal. And a lot of people commute to and from work as a single person, as a single passenger. So that's a lot of fuel inefficiencies. And of course, getting in accidents is inefficient too. Imagine how it's going to change the insurance industry. Insurance is going to be like, instead of $100 a month, it's going to be $10 a month. It's just going to be phenomenal. Gas is going to be so plentiful. I mean, vehicles are going to be so light. And if everything's going to be so efficient, we're just going to be plugging in our cars in our homes, and it's going to be like nothing. We'll get a new vehicle, and maybe it'll wear out over time. We'll just buy another one, and vehicles will be disposable. In fact, we may not even have ownership of vehicles. I can imagine a fleet of 10 vehicles working in a neighborhood, of, say, 100 people. And those 10 vehicles satisfying the needs, the transportation needs for those 100 people in that neighborhood. I can imagine we're talking about amazing economics. And the transportation of all kinds of goods is just going to become less expensive. You don't have to pay a semi-truck driver to drive your Walmart tractor trailer from one coast to another, from the loading docks in California to, say, New York, because you got robots, self-driving robots to do it. And I can imagine things like garbage trucks being controlled by computers, and it's just going to be amazing. I can imagine even ambulances being controlled by computers. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. It's just going to be crazy, the amount of change that's going to come along with autonomous vehicles. It's just going to be absolutely wonderful. It's going to be an amazing impact on the world. We're going to be so much safer. We're going to be so much more efficient and effective. Everybody's going to live longer as a result. There'll be fewer cripples as a result of getting into car accidents. Our quality of life is just going to go, it's just going to skyrocket. It's going to be easy to drive anywhere you want, if we wanted to take a vacation to Mexico or South America or Canada or Alaska, it's going to be easy to do. I mean, no one has to do the driving. You just sit and surf the internet for 6-8 hours. You could just lie back and sleep. And at the end of the day, or at the very next morning, you're in Mexico. You're in the Yucatan Peninsula. And it's like that, it's going to be amazing. It's just going to be amazing. And to think that all of this change is going to happen is going to really just get kickstarted in about 5 years. It's going to change economics. Everything's going to change. Everything's going to change. It's going to be phenomenal. Can't wait for it. And it's only about 5 years from now. Who knows when the Google autonomous car is going to be manufactured? I don't know. I bet you Tesla has got their sights on an autonomous vehicle as well. No doubt Toyota and all the large manufacturers, Ford, have got their eyes on autonomous vehicles. It's just going to change everything. I was thinking today about police officers, the police stations and just policing. A lot of these sort of law enforcement organizations get income from, I would call it like motor vehicle citations, right? They write tickets. Now, imagine if nobody speeds. Imagine if there are no motor vehicle violations, moving violations. I mean, imagine no DUIs. I mean, that's a whole income stream. That's a whole bunch of people that aren't going to jail. That's a whole bunch of police officers that don't have to spend all their time writing tickets for parking. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to free up so much energy in our economy and our mental energy, and we're just going to be a lot more creative. I mean, you could go to college in the time it takes people to commute from, say, Santa Barbara to Lompoc. an hour drive one way, an hour drive back. Over a period of 4 or 5 years, they could get a bachelor's degree or get a master's degree or PhD. You can do education while in the car. It's just going to be amazing. Everything. I mean, and this is happening now. There's a lot of things that people are gearing up. It's amazing. The next 5 years are going to be astounding. Hopefully, I think they will. Bar any kind of catastrophic meteor, hurtling through space and impacting the Earth. Barring the meteor, we'll be okay. And barring nuclear annihilation, we'll be fine. We'll be fine so long as, we'll be even able to get global warming, I think, under control in large respect. I mean, the petroleum industry, I know there's a lot of ways we use petroleum or fossil fuels, but I know that the car vehicles is a very significant contributor to global warming. And it'll be great to at least get a handle on global warming from that perspective, from the transportation perspective. That transportation sector will just vanish when it comes to global warming, and that'll be great. Big move in the right direction. Thank goodness for technology. So I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, I started talking about global warming for a minute. There are a lot of global warming skeptics, and I count myself as a global warming skeptic. I'm not a global warming cynic. I'm a global warming skeptic. But I also believe that global warming is happening. Don't get me wrong. I think healthy skepticism is important for any kind of intellectual life, and I try to make decisions about what I believe. And when I make those decisions, I make sure to incorporate a healthy amount of skepticism. So I got So my beliefs are as accurate as they can be. They cohere to the laws of nature and reality as much as they can. So anyway, I was thinking today. I had read an article earlier about global warming, in particular sea level rise. Turns out, and this is an article in the news said that sea levels are rising at an accelerated rate. Now, I did some research on Wikipedia and found that, I guess, over the last 10,000 years, the sea level has risen 140 meters. This is an amazing fact. And now you might want to ask, why did I limit that my time span to just 10,000 years? And I did it for a reason. And it's because of the last ice age, right? The last global ice age was about 10,000 years ago. It began to break, and things have been getting warmer ever since. Now, the thing about ice ages is that they lock up a lot of water, right? In glaciers and in snow and in polar caps, things like that. Well, back then, 10,000 years ago, the sea level was 140 meters lower than it is now. Craziness. So first of all, that's an amazing fact. 140? I mean, that's phenomenal. And so imagine, I was thinking about Doggerland. Have you ever heard of Doggerland? Doggerland is land that is beneath the North Sea, that was exposed when the North Sea was lower, or when ocean levels were lower. And in Doggerland, ancient people hunted and lived their lives, in the various tribes. There, it's a piece of land. It's sort of like a true to life Atlantis. And there are archaeological expeditions that try to pull up tools that these ancient people used in Doggerland to stay alive. The Doggerland was sort of like a land bridge between Western Europe and England, and I think it might have butted against Denmark and maybe even Scandinavia. But so what I'm telling is a story about land that existed about Ice Age time and just afterwards, as the oceans were rising. And really, I just wanted to make a point that I thought was interesting, in that about this article about how ocean sea levels are rising and they're gradually accelerating. Well, if that isn't sort of well, of course, there are very many lines of logic that sort of advocate the existence of climate change. I think, particularly global warming, I think that this accelerated rate of sea level rise is first of all something that's very measurable, something that's very understandable, and I think that is definitely something we need to pay attention to as a way of confirming the theory of global warming. So, what else would cause an increase of sea level height? There are a few things that would, if you think about it, one of the things are like, I guess, continental uplift. And I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology, but, as we know, the crust floats on top of the mantle. And if there was, say, lots of glaciers on top of the land and the glaciers melted off, then, I could imagine continents rising just as a result, because just like a boat floats when it loses cargo and floats at a higher level, so would the continents float on top of the mantle if they lost their glaciers. So I can see that as sort of a counterbalancing effect in a scenario where we have global warming. So what this means is that it's possible that as sea level is rising at a more accelerated rate in recent years, if we have a coincident rising of the continents because there are fewer glaciers on top, maybe there's even more sea level rise than we expect based upon the data. So I don't know. That's probably, first of all, I'm no expert, so it's probably a spurious claim. But I thought it was an interesting idea that I wanted to share. And, it's funny. A lot of people talk about sea ice extent, particularly at the North Pole. Although they'll talk about sea ice extent at the South Pole, too. And, as they'll show animations of the polar sea ice, expanding and contracting year after year, in regular patterns, and then they'll draw lines outlining the extent of the polar sea ice. And actually, it's actually quite confusing to me. And people start making judgments based on polar ice extent, the extent of this polar ice, and to me, it probably says more about temperature than anything, because I know that ice floating in water doesn't have an impact on sea level height. Ice floats in water, and it doesn't change the height of the water, no matter how much ice you've got. So, it might change it in a small respect. There could be air bubbles in the ice, air pockets, so to speak. But so I don't know what people are trying to prove when they talk about polar ice extent over the sea, or sea ice extent at the poles. It's probably just an argument about temperature and maybe the currents in the ocean, and it probably, I don't know if you can infer any more than that by looking at sea ice extent at the poles. But like I said, I'm really not an expert, but I think if there was any line of evidence that was convincing to me, it would be this accelerated pace of sea level rise. That is something I can understand. I think pretty much anyone can understand it. I mean, can anyone think of a few explanations as to, or at least alternate explanations as to why sea level is rising? I can't think of any. I mean, you'd have to come up with stories like, there's water being sort of created in the sea somehow. New water, we get new water. Where is this water coming from? I don't know. That's one fairly wacky scenario. Why else would sea levels rise? I mean, well, I guess perhaps the sea floor is rising as it floats on top of the mantle. I guess that's a possibility. Well, actually, no, it would have to be sinking, now that I think about it. Right? No, I guess it would have to be rising. If sea level was going up, if the amount of water that was water around the Earth stayed constant, in order for sea levels to rise, you'd have to have the sphere of crust sort of increasing in height from the center of the Earth. Okay. Anyway, I'm confusing myself. But anyway, I guess that's my spiel about global warming and what I've been thinking about lately. So, anyway, I'm pleased about the prospect of getting that a little bit more under control once we get these autonomous vehicles going. Let's see. What else? It's been a little chilly out. Oh, pajamas. I have been on a pajama kick lately. Totally on a pajama kick. I've been loving my pajamas. I bought 2 pair of pajamas. Is that how you describe them? 2 pair of pajamas? Pajamas. Is pajama singular? What does that refer to? The top or the bottom? They're single. They're like a unitard. I don't know. They're a single garment type pajamas out there. I don't really. I guess pajamas is plural, and actually pajamas is, I guess, would be singular. It'd be 1 pair of pajamas. The English language is really wacky. Jeans, 1 pair of jeans. You don't say 1 pair of jean. I don't have glasses. I'm not wearing glass. I'm wearing glasses. This whole idea of a word with an S at the end that refers to a singular item is just bizarre. Pajamas is an example of that. I don't know if anybody says pajama. If anybody told me, hey, you're wearing a pajama, or that person's wearing a pajama, I wouldn't know what they're referring to. I wouldn't know what to visualize. Are they wearing a top pajama, a bottom pajama, or a single pajama? The English language, it needs some work. Anyway, I just got some pajamas lately, and I've been liking them. The great thing about pajamas is that when you're wearing them, when you need to use the restroom, you need to walk around in the middle of the night, you're not freezing. You're not freezing because it's so cold. I actually don't turn on my heat at night, mainly because I don't need to. I've been hot lately. I'm sweating to the oldies all day long. I go to the gym on a regular basis, and my metabolism is running, and it's pretty toasty, and I changed from long sleeve to short sleeve shirts basically permanently because I'm basically in male menopause. I am totally I'm burning up, man. I'm burning up, which is good. So maybe that'll help me lose some weight. And but yeah, my metabolism keeps me warm all day. Even when it's cold outside, 50, 55, 60, 65, I'm feeling good. I don't even need a jacket half the time. I just throw on a jacket as insurance because I'm warm enough just in my standard clothes. In fact, I'm usually just burning up all the time. So anyway, it was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm going to wrap it up. And my throat's getting a little dry and raspy, so I'm going to end it. Anyway, like I said, it's great talking to you, and I hope you have a great and a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you, I'll talk at you sometime in the future. Who knows when?